3. So it can be subtracted, so therefore I'm going to put 1 underneath 4. So it has to go, this side and this side has to go together at the same time. So what you're doing is, next value is 2. So can 2 be subtracted? So now 7 is out, you're left with 3. So can 2 be subtracted from that? Yes, 2 can be subtracted from 3, and I'm left with equals to 1. So now I have to subtract, and I have to just say yes, it can be. So I put a 1. Now the next value is 1. Can 1 be subtracted from 1? Yes. So that is your binary representation of 31, and this is how you can convert any other number. All that you need to do is make sure you subtract that number from this. So we're gonna go, I'm just gonna continue with this. So I'm gonna cut the video into smaller portions. So the first thing that I want to make sure that you guys know how to do is how to convert this from binary to decimal and from decimal to binary. Next, that is it. So the binary representation of 31, or number 31, that is the binary representation of 31 is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 3, 1. So let's take another number. For instance, let's take a higher number. Let's take, for instance, 224. 224 is what we are trying to convert to binary. Now we're going to ask ourselves, can 128 be subtracted from 224? Yes, it can be subtracted from 224. So now let's subtract it. So we're going to say here 224 minus 128, we're left with exactly 96. So yes, it can be subtracted, so we put 1. Next is, our value is never again 224. The value it concerned right now is 96 instead. So now we're going to say the next value right here is 64 from the left. So we say, can 64 here be subtracted from 96? Yes, it can be subtracted, and then we will left with 32. So if it can be, what you do is put 1. Now we are left with 32. Now that 32, the next value right now from the left is 32. So what we do is we say, can 32 be subtracted from 32? Yes, 32 can be subtracted from 32, but what are we left with? 0. But still we have to subtract. So when we subtract it, we say, can it be subtracted? Yes. Now the value left is a 0. So all the remainder of the numbers here, 16, 8, 4, 3, 2, 8, 4, 2, 1, are all numbers that cannot be subtracted from 0. So they all remain as 0, because none of these numbers can be subtracted from 0. So the binary representation of 224 decimal number is 1110000. So that is what I want you guys. So I'll give you guys an assignment right after this one, and I'll ask you guys to do that for me before tomorrow, and then have it submitted immediately. Okay guys, so we just have to complete each and everything by day, so we cannot waste time. Now let's take a bigger number again. So I'm just going to take 225 for instance. Okay guys, so let's take 255, or maybe 225. Let me just take 225, because that's how I just want to fix it out. Alright, so 225, let's take it this way. Can 128 be subtracted from 225? Now I don't need to even be subtracting right from here. If it can be subtracted, we just put a 1. If we put 1, now how much is left is 97. Now 97 is our value, because if I subtract this, I'm going to be left with 97. Can 64 be subtracted from 97? Yes, it can be subtracted. How much is going to be left is going to be 33 instead. Alright, 33 is my number. Can 32 here be subtracted from 33? Yes, it can be subtracted. So if I subtract this 32, that is this number here, if I subtract this number from this 33, I'll be left with just 1. Now can 16 be subtracted from that 1? It cannot be. Can 8 be subtracted? No. Can 4 be subtracted? No. How about 2? No. But can 1 be subtracted from 1? Yes, it can be subtracted. So immediately, this is exactly what we're looking for. So what you do is make sure that you subtract and then you subtract. So if you think getting these bit values, these are called the decimal bit values. Okay, so each octet has to be worked out. So how to get this number is what I tried to show you guys in the beginning with those mathematics like 2 to the power blah blah blah. But what we are looking for is this number. So if you can cram it is the best thing, but if you cannot remember it, the best thing is remember the formula I just gave you in the beginning of the video, and then it will help you be able to remember some of these things. So I mean guys, I hope you understand this thing. Now let's try last number, just last example. What we're looking for is 255. So I just want to look at one thing here. If I add all these numbers together, it will not be more than 255. So an octet, that is a port or a portion of an I-4 address, is not more than 255 values. So if you have more than 255, you're not good. So what you do is, now let's convert this to 255 into binary. Can 128 be subtracted from 255? So let's subtract 128 from 255. We're left with 127. Okay, so it can be subtracted. We put 1 and then we move to the next value. Now the next value right now is 64. Can now 64 be subtracted from 127? Yes, it can be subtracted, and we are left with 63, for instance. So we are left with 63. So we said 64 can be subtracted. We put 1. Now the next value from the left, so we're gonna just get rid of all that because we're now left with 63 is our standing value. Next value here is 32. Now we say, can 32 be subtracted from this 64? Yes, it can be subtracted. Sorry about that. 32 can be subtracted, but when we subtract 32 from this, how much are we left with? Boom, we are left with 31 instead. So 31 is the value that is left. Good. Now we move to the next value, 16. Can 16 be subtracted from this 31? Bam. Yes, it can be subtracted. Yes, it can be subtracted. So when I subtract 16 from 31, I am left with how much? 15. Now that is it. Can 8 in concern here be subtracted from 15? Yes, it can be subtracted. So when I subtract 8 from 15, I'm left with 7. Next value is 4. Can 4 be subtracted from 7? Yes, it can be subtracted. So if I subtract 4 from 7, I have left with 3. And next value is 2. Can 2 here be subtracted? Sorry about that. Can 2 be subtracted from 3? Yes. If I subtract 2 from 3, I am left with 1. Basically, can 1 be subtracted from 1? Yes, it can be. So the last is, if I subtract 1 from